What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video, and in this one, I want to talk about an off-season addition that the New England Patriots made in free agency. Now, they didn't make a lot of moves in free agency, especially a lot of splash moves in free agency, but they did still make a couple, one of which was Ty Montgomery. Now, I want to start off by saying I did make an entire video on Ty Montgomery, looking into his past history and kind of just giving his overall free agency profile. I'll link that in the comment section below. It's going to be the first pinned comment if you do want to know more about Ty Montgomery and what he brings to the Patriots. But by the title, you can tell I want to talk about what is the potential role for Ty Montgomery. You know, when he was signed by the Patriots, I think we all kind of took a step back and said, okay, a diverse piece, a guy that is super versatile, can play a majority of different roles, but where does he really fit in this Patriots system? Now, Montgomery is mixed between a running back and a wide receiver, but is mainly a running back. You know, that's where he's going to stand out. That's going to be his bread and butter. He's not a guy that you want to use, you know, mainly as a wide receiver. You know, he's not going to be your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. You don't even really want to be your wide receiver 3. With that being said, you look at the wide receiver core for the Patriots, and it's pretty stacked. You know, it might not be one of the best in the NFL talent-wise, but there's a lot of bodies the Patriots have there. You have Devontae Parker, you have Jacoby Myers, you have Kendrick Bourne, you have N'Keal Harry, Nelson Aguilar, Tyquan Thornton, and those are just the receivers that I think would play over someone like Ty Montgomery overall as a wide receiver. But then you look at running backs, and the Patriots have Damian Harris, they have Ramondre Stevenson, they brought back James White, they added Pierre Strong, they added Kevin Harris, and that question mark really comes in with, okay, what was the point in adding Ty Montgomery? And I truly believe that he is coming in as an insurance policy for James White. The Patriots really, really value that pass-catching running back, and you can make the argument that Pierre Strong is the future of that role. James White hasn't been James White in quite a while now. In 2020, Brady leaves, first season without him. James White has a really, really bad year. Now, obviously, he has some reasons to kind of back that statement up. The pandemic, his father passing away tragically. There's a lot of things that went into that. And then in 2021, ended up having a season-ending injury. He appeared in about 3 games for the Patriots this past season. He was targeted 14 times within those 3 games with 12 receptions for 94 yards, averaging 7.8 yards per reception and 0 touchdowns. It seems like early on in times of crisis, Mac Jones was going to James White, kind of like that old Brady to James White connection. Unfortunately, though, like I just mentioned, he did have a season-ending injury, and for a guy that is now 30 years old, that is very, very concerning. Again, James White hasn't necessarily been the James White that we all know, love, and remember. Now that he's 30 years old and coming off a season-ending injury, we don't know what to expect. We don't know how he's going to come back. And unfortunately, the Patriots really did not have a true insurance policy behind James White for that pass-catching running back role. Now, if things don't pan out with James White, the Patriots obviously don't want to go with a rookie in Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris. You can make the argument that one, if not both of those guys, could be redshirted. So what do? You bring in Ty Montgomery to fill in that role of a pass-catching running back, kind of give you some options throughout training camp, just your offseason programs in general and OTAs, mini camp, the preseason, kind of see how that connection can go with Mac Jones in case, one, that connection with James White isn't there, which I don't believe is true, or two, James White just isn't the old James White we all know and love. When you think of James White, what do you think of? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Me personally, when I think of James White, I think of a wide receiver in a running back role. Now, based off of that description, who else do you think of? Ty Montgomery. A guy that isn't going to be the most elusive running back, isn't going to be the most dynamic running back. But if you line him up at running back and use him as a pass-catching back, he's really, really good at that role. This past season, Ty Montgomery was targeted 23 times with 16 receptions, with 95 receiving yards, 0 receiving touchdowns, 3 drops, averaging 5.9 yards per reception. Now, I do also want to kind of put out a little disclaimer. Do I think he's going to be the next James White? No, he's not nearly as dynamic, but he can definitely fill out that role for a year or two if the Patriots need before finding that next pass-catching running back, whether that be Pierre Strong or somebody else. In 2020, he was targeted 6 times, 3 receptions, 27 yards, 0 receiving touchdowns, 1 drop, averaging 9 yards per reception. In 2019, he was targeted 17 times with 13 receptions for 90 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 drops, averaging 6.9 yards per reception. Now again, I will say that a lot of teams haven't necessarily used him in that role, but I think that he would fit perfectly in that role. A guy who has experience at running back, a guy who has experience as a wide receiver. The thing though is that a lot of teams weren't using him as that classic pass-catching running back out of the backfield. They were either using him as a running back that goes north to south, east to west, or they were using him as a wide receiver that was lining up out wide. 2 very, very different things than having a pass-catching running back out of the backfield that you can just have a quick dump off to. And also at 6 foot, 216 pounds, running a 4.5, I think he has the build to also be able to shed a few tackles, be able to take some of these hits. He's going to be a larger James White. Now, he does have some special teams ability also, which could ultimately be what gets him on the roster, and he can kind of be that depth piece as a pass-catching running back. So I do definitely think that there is a role for Ty Montgomery on this team. It's just going to be one of those battles that you kind of have to watch as this offseason progresses. You have to kind of see what's his dynamic and his chemistry going to be like with Mac Jones. How is James White looking more specifically? Because if James White looks healthy, if James White can be James White, he's going to take that role. But if he's coming back slowly, if he's looking slow, he's looking sluggish, he continues to have issues with drops, maybe Ty Montgomery comes in and then takes that role. There is also an argument, though, that you can say, hey, if things do pan out for James White, then maybe Ty Montgomery doesn't make the roster. But he did sign a 2-year deal with the Patriots, in which he has a cap hit of $1.6 million for this season, and then $1.9 million for next season. So again, even if things pan out with James White, maybe the Patriots decide, hey, we'll throw you out on special teams and keep you as a depth piece overall. Real quick, though, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsors of this channel, betonline.ag. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and, of course, your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It is super easy to get started, so head to the website today and use your mobile device to sign up using that promo code CLNS50 to receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. But this is a little bit of insight on Patriots offseason edition, free agency edition, Ty Montgomery. What are your guys' thoughts on him, and what role do you think he will serve with the Patriots? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on this video. It really helps me in the channel out with the YouTube algorithm, along with commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and of course, subscribing to the channel if you have not already, and turning on that bell notification so you get notified as soon as I post a new video. But like always, I really appreciate each and every single one of you for watching this video, and as always, go Pats.